On this episode, we're talking with our friend Brent Miller about charitable giving.
You're listening to the Dudes and Dads Podcast, a show dedicated to helping men be better dudes and dads by building community through meaningful conversation and storytelling. And now, here are your hosts, Joel DeMont and Andy Lehman.
Andy, hello.
Hola, Joel.
Oh,
Hola.
I spoke a little Spanish earlier this evening.
Oh, yeah?
I wasn't ordering food. I know what you were thinking.
Well, you know, tacos are your friend.
They are. But no, it was out on the football pitch, as they say across the pond. Matthew had a game, or Mateo, as we like to call him out there.
You were calling him Mateo.
He's almost only responding to his Spanish name. But yeah, I shared some encouraging words. Jackie thought I was saying something controversial. No, I was just saying
encouraging.
Good buen trabajo, Mateo. Good job, Matthew. So now for all of our Univision listeners,
or we'll get nasty comments and say that's not what you meant.
That's not what he said at all. No, we're going cross-cultural. Hey, Andy, hi, welcome back. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too.
Andy and I had a lovely dinner out with our spouses the other night.
We did.
I destroyed a prime rib, and I don't feel guilty about it at all. It was delightful.
It was, and I had some shrimp stuff. Man,
we should reach out. Our good friends down at the Channel Marker down in beautiful Syracuse, Indiana, provided us with a lovely dinner. And by provided, I mean I paid a lot of money for it, but I don't. Again, I regret nothing.
Right,
Andy. It was a good time.
Yeah, I did. It was good to go out with the friends. It's been a long time since we've been out.
We had this experience, and I wanted to capture it. I wanted to capture it because we said here's the day that we've been waiting for. We have some in the whole group of kids, because we had also our friends Brian and Kim were out with us as well. We have kids now that are on the old enough spectrum that they can take care of the younger kids. So we put them all at our house, and we just left them. And I got them pizza, and we left them.
And it turned out.
And everyone seemed to be pretty okay when we got back.
Molly got a little bruise on her foot.
But you know what? She found the crutches at our house and was using them. Dog on it. Just a little overly dramatic, but it all worked out. And I just said, I took a moment last night. I said, friends, I believe that we're turning a corner where we don't have to orchestrate all the sitters. Right. We don't have to whatever. We can just leave these kids be, feed them pizza, give them a PS4 and some YouTube in the other room, watching whatever.
They were watching Shark Tank. Your cat was too.
I feel like. Yeah, that's a no for me, dog. Yeah, I feel like I think I'm doing something okay if my kids are like, hey, I want to watch Shark Tank. Unless it's because there's some sick need that they have to see other people's dreams crushed. I don't know. Hey, Andy, we are we're back in action. Good to have each and every one of you with us. Like I said at the top of the show, our friend Brent Miller from Everence is back with us. So. We're glad. It's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about charitable giving. But first, I do want to remind that this episode is actually sponsored by Everence.
No pressure. Get it right. Here we go.
Support from Everence comes from Everence Financial, helping members invest in what lasts through financial services with impact. More at everence.com/Michiana. Securities offered through Concourse Financial Group Securities Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC.
Nicely done, Andy. I really feel with each and every plug, you have just fine-tuned that beast more and more every time. I can't get enough of you telling me about Everence Financial now. I wake up in the morning and go, you know what would start my day better? To hear Andy share more about Everence Financial. That's right. Everence Financial, our number one and only corporate sponsor. But nevertheless, yes, thanks to the good folks at Everence. Yeah. As I was just telling, I had received a pastoral grant from Everence, and apparently we pastors, there's a group of us that graduated from our respective places of pastoral education, and then went firmly into an economic downturn. And there's some debt reduction things that Everence is trying to help out with. So we're the van's getting paid off, Andy. That's what I'm telling you. That Sienna is going to be all mine. Just a matter of time.
Well, Brent, welcome to the show. You've been here before, but we thought we'd bring you back for talking a little bit about charitable giving.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Brent said all the right things last time, and
honestly,
none of the wrong things.
Honestly, he wants to sign the cup. That's why he came back.
I didn't even. Yeah, I apparently the cup got implemented right after I was on,
and we apologize.
Every time I watched an episode, I had to watch somebody else sign a cup.
What's the deal with the cup?
He was getting real jealous.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure, Andy. In fact, you know what? Let's make sure we post lots of pictures
of him,
multiple angles of Brent signing the cup. Let's redeem this situation. Oh my goodness!
But welcome back to the show, Brent.
Thank you.
Hey, so we're talking about charitable giving. We're talking about all the ways in which we can think more intentionally about charitable giving, and you know, in these times that we live in, and I know like the conversation that we're having locally, I think non-for-profit leadership right now, all of that in our area is, you know, the economy. We don't really know what's going on. Maybe Brent does. He's on the inside. I don't know. Maybe he's got the inside track. My sense has just been in general, as someone who not only works for a non-for-profit and is, you know, my check comes through charitable. The only source of my income is through the charitable giving of others. Right now, it does feel a little bit dicey, and that when uncertain times come in, people's giving, we've seen it. We noticed it back in February, quite honestly. There was a trend started changing where, like that charitable giving starts to be affected. People start to pull back a little bit. There seems to be this sense of, because we don't know what's ahead, we don't know if we can invest in this way and that sort of thing. So I guess one of my first questions right now is, big picture, what on the charitable giving side on the horizon, what are the conversations going on? What is your sense about where people are at currently? And for you guys on the Everence side, how are you trying to coach, counsel, help people keep perspective during all of this? Because it's a value. We know it's a value for Everence. It's a value for any of us being, you know, again, faith community stuff. It's kind of like, well, there's a lot of great organizations and really good work out there that only their work can only continue if people are keeping, you know, charitable giving in front of them. So give us, as best you can, what's the lay of the land right now? What are the conversations that are being had?
Yeah, I'll talk about a couple different things, and we'll see where it goes from there. But one of the biggest things right now is inflation. Inflation affects everything. It's a double-edged sword that not only affects goods, but also affects everything from wages. You know, you think of nonprofits, you think of churches. They're not immune to inflation. So when they need to go out and supply coffee and supply all the things that go into making a Sunday go, that the cost of that has went up. Along with nonprofits is the same way. I mean, goods for them is still going up, but not only goods, but wages. Wages are probably the biggest increase out there right now. That you know. Everybody's dealing with that, the lack of people in the workforce and having open positions that you're trying to recruit for. That's hard. That's hard for nonprofits, churches. And so they need it. But also on the charitable giving standpoint, the people that give, that's eating into their budget,
right,
and what they give. And those folks that, I mean, we've had an up market for quite some time. One of the most common charitable giving type things are appreciated assets. And so when those assets don't start appreciating, people tend to pump the brakes and see where that's going. And they're not thinking about giving those types of appreciated assets. So it really does affect charitable giving on a number of fronts out for any type of nonprofit.
I know on our side, you know, as we're looking to, you know, we're talking about staffing additions and hiring and things like that. And, you know, it's the hard conversation we have with our board of saying we can't get that same employee for the dollar amount that we used to be able to get them for. And for us, there's also an ethical thing attached to that of like, we're not in a place, some businesses, it's like we want to get the best candidate for the lowest cost or whatever. In our case, it's we want to get the best candidate for the appropriate investment into them financially, because again, on the ministry side, non-for-profit side, I don't want people in a bad financial place where they're not able to focus on what they're doing because they've got, other fires to put out because of the financial crunch. So that hits, that hits in the same way. No one is immune. I just know in my world right now, it's like, man, we're just absolutely feeling that. And then on top of that, it's like, hire the right person, and then pray that they don't have to move. Because if they also have to move, that's a whole other problem, because the real estate ain't available for them. Or if it is, is it in that fine, is it within the price range? Is it in the right school system? All that. So, in these times, we get it. It feels like there's a lot of crunches. There's a lot of gateways that people have to get through, and that the spectrum in which they can really survive and flourish gets smaller and smaller. And there's a ton of anxieties that are put with that, in addition to whatever other uncertainties are out there. I will be the first to say, Andy, I've just really stopped watching the news.
Same here.
And not so much. I mean, it's part of it on the financial market side, but really there's a lot of fires burning in the world right now, but that do have implications on global trade and all these sort of things. And just as I'm saying this, Andy, this might be the most professional sounding episode we've had in here in a while. We're talking global trade giving. I'm like almost like we should be on the AM dial right now.
Talked about inflation.
Yeah,
man.
Guys.
Yeah.
We hit them all.
You know what? For all of you that have been writing, all that you've been writing in saying that we're just not bringing enough hard hitting financial content.
Now is it?
It's a one big flyover. When it comes to giving, how do you guys from on when you're guiding people through finances, and when they're setting up, because I know with Everence, like when there's kind of a full financial inventory taken, and when you're kind of partnering with people, the giving side is always part of the conversation. That's something you guys are always introducing to them. When we're in the situation that we are right now economically, are you still having that conversation with people? And if so, are you introducing it in the same way, or are you like doing what I do, where it's the thing I don't want to talk about, I hold that off to the last part of the conversation and be like, oh, and by the way, how do you feel about giving? What do you do?
Well, we talked a little bit about this in the last episode of talking, and you guys have talked with other people from Everence about talking about kids, about money. I think that part starts at kind of getting to know people, and that's one of the questions we ask is, how did you grow up with money? What was your backstory with that? But also, like, what was your backstory about giving? How did you see that modeled? Was it modeled when you were younger growing up? Because so often that's imprinted on people and has a profound effect of, what they want to include in their financial plan. And so getting to know that backstory is important. But quite honestly, in a lot of situations where that wasn't modeled or hadn't even been thought about, people start to think, I don't know. We haven't started. So it's just kind of helping them start of, how do you think about incorporating charitable giving, giving to others in those situations. A lot of times it's just starting some type of budget where you're allocating X amount of dollars towards your church, towards charity, towards giving back. That part of that budget is in that, and that comes in a lot of different ways in the conversation there.
Let's make it personal to you. What's the conversation amongst your family? How have you guys talked about it?
Wow. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with modeling. I think a lot of it is bringing kids into the conversation there, and helping them understand that there are organizations like churches, like non-for-profits that give back, that don't just show up and all of a sudden the lights are on and this and that. There's people that give their time, talents, resources to that and make that work. Honestly, like one of the best things that I think happens in the Everence setting is when you as a family, a lot of times charitable giving or giving of your time has to do with spouses. and you don't incorporate your kids into that. And one of the most unique things that I have been impacted over my years with Everence is family kind of endowments, family charitable giving. That happens a lot where people are like, oh, well, that family had a lot of resources and they left it to their kids, and now their kids decide where that money goes. And in a lot of situations, that is the case. But some of the most profound, impactful stories that I have over my years of working with Everence is just smaller families. Mom and dad aren't making a ton, but they're diligent about sitting down. I can think of one particular family that saves, $100 a month into their charitable account. And at the end of the year, they sit down as a family and they talk about the various charities that they're involved with, and they let their kids help them decide.
Nice.
Where should our family give this money to?
Yep.
And so just even that, like something smaller like that, doesn't have to be your whole, like you and your spouse can still support the charities that you care for, but bringing them into that, regardless of, what they want to support, putting resources behind that. I know personally, my youngest son, for the last number of years when we do garage sales, he does lemonade for Humane Society.
Nice.
And he just absolutely loves this thing. And he did it one year for just trying to make any money, and he didn't make any money. Like he made like $20 or something like that. He's like, I'm not real excited. Well, he did it for the Humane Society, and he raised a pretty significant dollar amount. And then the second time he did it, he had even more. And so he was proud as all can be going over to the Humane Society and taking this money over to them that he raised and telling them the story.
That's awesome.
So that's just a real life personal story for me. But I think regardless of what that is, whether it's, you think of growing up and you had the little acorns that you used to put the money into and things like that. I mean, that's simple, yet it's so profound that's impactful for all of us when we got to break that bank and give that. So every kid has that opportunity to have that seed planted. And I think that's probably the most important thing. What are you passing on to your kids, the legacy you want to leave to your kids when it comes to charitable giving?
Sure. So obviously, charitable giving can be churches, but how does like Everence play into like what, if I want to do some charitable giving, like what does that look like if I go to Everence and say, hey, I want to do charitable giving? So
good question. So Elkhart County is blessed in the fact that we have one of the most profound community foundations that was blessed by a very large gift. And, right now I think it's at $370 million. That really is a great resource for nonprofits here. So they are very specifically involved here in Elkhart County, not only with getting the community involved, but also supporting and helping out local nonprofits. Everence really, on the charitable giving side, we are a donor-advised fund. So we work on behalf of not only the charity, but also donors. And so regardless of where it's at, not just Elkhart County, all across the country, last year we gave away it was a record year, $158 million came in from folks that wanted to do charitable giving. And that's working with people all across the board, just people just starting off. That's usually done in a donor-advised fund. So that's kind of like a charitable checking account that you can put money into that, can be it can be one lump sum. It can be ongoing contribution. But then you get that charitable deduction, that charitable giving in that particular time, but you don't have to distribute that right away. So you could let it accumulate for a couple of years, maybe save up for a bigger project you wanted to fund, et cetera. But really anything can be given into that. So Everence kind of works in about 60% of our giving is done through cash.
Okay.
But the other 40% is unique assets. So that'd be stocks that have appreciated. If you could put a dollar amount to it, we have some strange gifts that have come through Everence Foundation over the years. Gifts of cattle, pigs, toy collections.
Yeah.
There was a thatched house over in England that we helped with. Right now, we're actually working with, believe it or not, manure is a commodity now. Like that, people are in the business of doing stuff with manure, and apparently it's a lucrative business. And So if you can put a value on it, we help folks there. We've had business owners donate part of their small business as they get ready to retire to help offset some of those gains. So really, that's where we sit down with folks and we help them kind of accomplish what they want to accomplish from a charitable giving standpoint. And that also can be family endowments as well, with folks that have passed away, and we have family estates that we're managing for them. So all across the board, it's actually one of the more unique and kind of fun parts of our job. We celebrate not only the assets that we manage at Everence, but also really relish in being able to help people funnel money to the charities that they love.
Andy, I think about, and I'll give, as I'm asking you this question, I'll give Brent a second to ponder it. But like, when thinking about things you want to donate to, you want to give money to, like, would you say that you've got because I was just thinking about this the other day, like, what is the, kind of the grid by which you judge or make determinations of like what kind of organization you want to support?
Sure. So for us, I would say it's a lot of times the things that have touched our family. Okay. So whether we have friends that are in the mission field or things that we're involved with, i.e. this church, the church that we go to, projects here, but also, like projects, or if we hear about somebody that's in need. So for us, it's a lot of like personal type things where, we see the need. And so we're able to help in that way. How about yourself?
Well, something, so Jackie and I were with Brent and Christy here a few weeks ago at Big Brothers Big Sisters, their gala. And like, so something so for me which is, I think it's really interesting for someone who has worked for, 17 years with youth and young adults, Big Brothers Big Sisters, which we've had our good friend John Kaufman, actually,
yes.
who's a big, talking about that organization. I get behind that sort of thing financially because in my experience with youth work, the thing that they are doing is addressing the most, for the ROI is incredibly high. That's what I'm looking at. Direct one-to-one mentorship and so I'm just giving Big Brothers Big Sisters this plug because I'm behind how they do what they do and why they do it. But I know that my dollar, quite honestly, is going the farthest by supporting that stuff. Because if you want to change, oh my gosh, if you want to change all kinds of generational issues, if you want to develop leaders in the community that are going to make that are in the community, understand the community's needs, and can actually speak to them in a way that is relevant and practically helpful. One-to-one mentorship and intergenerational mentorship is the magic bullet of all of that. So I look at that organization and I say, bingo, that hits for me. I know my dollar will go farthest there. And more nonprofits, quite honestly, need to be thinking more that way. They need to take because there's a lot of really, really wonderful organizations out there. There's also a lot of ones that, and as transparency has increased, I think this issue has gotten more and more dealt with, where it's like, hey, XYZ non-for-profit, you'll find out like maybe 60% of their budget goes to marketing, things like that or whatever. That's the sort of stuff that I'm looking out for. Those are the kind of things. So we want to be smart charitable givers, and not just giving to organizations that that haven't gotten that piece figured out, where they have if they have a ton of overhead in something, if they have a ton of marketing costs and things like that. You're never, any organization. As a church, we have marketing costs,
right?
And you're never going to avoid that fully, but really making a determination about every dollar that I give, how much of that dollar is going to the direct thing that I actually care about, or the thing that quite honestly, the thing that the organization says they care about. Yeah. So just a consistency. But I don't know if you have any kind of thoughts about, because I know obviously Big Brothers Big Sisters is a big passion of yours, but I don't know if you have if anything kind of resonates there with you. Yeah,
I think a little bit of this has to do with kind of the more you think about charitable giving and getting involved with volunteerism, giving to nonprofits, you start to think a lot about that. One of the things that I've really dealt with internally just over the last 5-6 years. I think it's probably as my kids get older and you start to say, you know, I don't know, the impact of all this stuff happens. But I have this vision of ripple effects of like, what is the ripple effect of what you're doing? And so one of the things that I think nonprofits have gotten pretty good at over the years is finding very specific ways that you can cause ripple effects within that charitable organization. I would actually, this might be a little controversial, I would actually say that churches haven't done really great job of causing ripple effects, of creating like, hey, like we want to do this and we want to cause this ripple with not only acts of service, but also giving of money. And so, you know, you think of, you know, whether it's an organization like Big Brothers Big Sisters, you can kind of dive into and say, you know, I'd like to support a match that costs about $2,000 a year. I want to support, you know, have my money go towards that. You can kind of really kind of say, well, this is the message that I'm going to do. So I think that's important for me to see where that's going to go. I mean, even being over the years, I played baseball at Bethel, and I've always given to the baseball program, but I start to think of it differently now. Of like, oh man, there's 30 plus kids on that team. I think of the impact that Bethel baseball had on my trajectory of a man and who I am today. And now you're starting to be like, well, you know, maybe I can affect and allow them to do something as a team that allows them to grow closer together and impacts their path. So I think a lot of that has to do with just diving into that and just looking for opportunities to do that and leaning in and looking for those, because quite honestly, if you're not leaning in, you're bombarded with things that, you know, hey, you want to give of your time here, you want to give of money here. We get kind of overwhelmed with that.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, I sure haven't gained, we're talking finances here, but like I sure haven't gained any more hours in my day, you know, on the volunteering side. But it's, you know, trying to ask the question, okay, again, of my time, where's the biggest ripple effect? Where are we creating, you know, creating spaces to for good things to happen? You know, something, and I'll just. And I take zero credit for any of this. It's just something really cool thing that happened at Wakarusa Missionary. So we partnered with a local business, the coffee shop that's now in Wakarusa. You know, it's been this time where if you were trying to do a large construction project, finding contractors and things like that in a timely manner to do it, where you didn't increase your overhead massively just by, you know, because it's like once the permits start coming in, you need to get building, or you're losing money, right? So we, with the owners of that organization, we partnered and we said we can provide volunteer labor for you, that's skilled, qualified volunteer labor for you. We ended up putting over 450 hours of volunteer labor into making that coffee shop happen. But it was nothing more for us, was the whole idea of we get to bless the community with this, create a space for. There's various support groups that are meeting there. Like there's a whole group of ladies that have lost their spouses in the last few years or whatever.
We may try to do a live episode there from some time.
Yes, Garage Coffee Shop. Yep. Tori, we're coming. By the way, I'm gonna ask that we get a Dudes and Dads coffee drink. We should to tell the listeners right now, if you imagine. What is a Dudes and Dads specialty?
Write us in
coffee.
Into the comments.
What does that include? What is that really? For me, it's just 4 shots of espresso.
In the comments or call our voice.
Yeah, let us know what does that look like. But you know, we partnered with that organization, which is a weird thing, and some people looked a little bit cross-eyed at us, like, okay, why is a church coming alongside this for-profit business? Now they blessed us with, we have use of their facility and their off hours. Yeah. We made that deal, and that's been really, really cool. But we said, what is a legacy or something that can leave? Like, I think it's a great story to be able to tell from years later when people sit down and be like, this coffee shop is here because a bunch of retired or semi-retired guys who were in with building trades or whatever all got together and help make this renovation and this thing possible. So I think leaning in, getting our hands on the thing, and actually being physically involved with this stuff, it does change you. It fundamentally does. And
you end up caring more for the things around you in your community.
100%.
If you can put in.
Yeah, 100%. And now it's like strangely enough, I care about the flourishing of that local business that we partnered with. Yes, I want to see the owners do well financially and all of that, but I want to see there be this community hub and place, because that's really their heartbeat with the Schwartz family that owns it. Like, that's really their heartbeat, is to say, we want a gathering place where people can get together, have good conversations, and be encouraged in life, and get a good cup of coffee, and just like help build this community, help other people. Because it's always that way. Whenever you're doing in some of these older towns, like downtown restoration, one good business comes in, that invites another and another, and you do start to see some things develop out of that. So we hope that's the ripple effect. We definitely do. But yeah, it's just, I think taking the time, getting more invested in it, doing something intentional, and here's the thing, and this is something that I'm being challenged with. In your giving, give from a place of that it actually, like, if your giving isn't actually making you adjust your lifestyle at all, that'd be my challenge. I think when your lifestyle has to get shifted a little bit, and it's an area that I'm thinking about. Again, it further cements your conviction behind that giving, and that's financially. That's also in terms of volunteering and everything else.
Yeah, I would hit the nail on the head on that last part of volunteering. I think our tendency of giving tends to be financial.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we guard. It's much easier sometimes to just write a check than it is to get involved.
Yep.
And I was privileged last week. Kevin Deary came and talked. He's the CEO at Boys and Girls Club here in Elkhart County. And he kind of challenged it's a group of employees at Everence 20 years plus. And he kind of challenged us to look the 1 degree out. We get so kind of focused time and energy wise of just kind of branching out 1 degree and looking for another opportunity to do that. But I think you talked a little bit about pushing yourself on a financial standpoint. I think sometimes we need to push ourselves on the time standpoint.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, that's dealing with younger families. A lot of times that is where you start to plant the seeds for charitable giving later.
Sure.
Because most people financially are better off 20 years down the road than they are today, and they can give more there. But if you are involved, you're serving on a board, you're doing projects, it's much easier as you start to get income in that you're like, oh, God's blessed me here. Yeah. It's much easier to give financially at that point if you're already giving a lot of your time and energy to projects and services, to your church, to nonprofits, with kids, etc. So
it's like the gateway drug. gets you a little taste, and then before you know it, you're in deep.
You're in. So for you, Brent, how were some things that you decide to give either financially or with your time? I know you're a big volunteer person. I see you all the time. You're involved in a lot of different things.
It's just nothing but a bunch of charity golf outings. Let's just be real quick. I'm kidding.
So how do you decide
charity golf outing?
How do you decide what you're going to volunteer or give to? Yeah,
I think that does. I think we have to take a step back and always be analyzing where am I at with that? Well, am I getting too out of bounds with this? I think you got to review that just the same way you do with your finances. I was changed quite a bit when I started to get involved with my sons at an early age. Just getting involved with other kids, just recognizing. There's a lot of broken homes out there, a lot of kids that don't have father figures. So part of what I started out with was just helping out with coaching. I've been in athletics my whole life. And so, that's one area where I just kind of started on my path and started to help out as much as I can, even though I really didn't want to say yes. I kind of pushed myself with that. The other thing I had to kind of ask is where's my natural connections? I'm on the board at Big Brothers Big Sisters. Love it. I love that one-on-one time with folks. I love the organization, but also I was modeled when I was younger. My dad was on the board at Salvation Army.
Okay,
so I didn't really understand that growing up. I just knew we had to go to these different things. We had to go eat pancakes and do this and that. But that's something that my dad planted 30 years ago when I didn't really understand what was going on. And that opportunity came up to serve on that board, that same board that my dad did, that does a really great job of influencing people in the community. And so those are two organizations that I've really gotten involved with. But I think a lot of it just has to deal with, it goes back to that ripple effect of looking for opportunities to help people whenever I can, when everything inside of me is saying, you don't need to take on something else.
Everything inside you and maybe some people outside of you.
Yes. When your wife is like, what?
You did what?
So I think that's important. And I think I've been blessed immensely by that of saying yes when everything inside me was saying no, you just don't have time for that. That has meant a lot to me, and I've also seen the impact of that. Yeah. And so that's where I've continued to look at that. But financially wise, I think, again, back to Joel's point, is looking for ways that I can get excited. I this past year, I got involved with Center for Healing and Hope, had a backpack project for kids going back to school. I was like, you know what, I could help and organize some of that stuff. And it was something that I got it was a specific project. I put specific energy behind that, and you're able to see the kids that you affected with that. Yeah. So just looking for those opportunities that can have a immediate impact and have a ripple effect on people.
So we've had a couple different comments on the live broadcast. First one is Jackie DeMott says, yes, volunteering has completely fallen off since COVID.
Yeah.
So I would agree. It seems like, it's hard to get good help, good volunteers.
Well, I was thinking about earlier this football season for 7th grade football. Brent, myself, and our friend Travis are out there doing chain gang, and the referees come over and they're like, "We're just glad to see adults over here." And like there was and then it's like, oh right, because there's a real sense of even some simple things that people used to step up for. It's harder now.
And Joel, you have to admit, when they come up to you and they ask, "Hey, would you like to man these things?" Everything in your body is going, I just want to watch. I just want to watch my son play football.
That's right.
But I think you got to fight through that.
Yeah, and the thing is that who's going to model that kind of service? Someone's got to do it. It's just not going to come from some void. And the volunteer crisis that I'll call it what it is. It is a crisis that we're in now. There's probably some larger national mental health statistics that are contributing to that too, because I think people feel there seems to be this ripple effect of people feel spent in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I think the deeper spiritual truth is when you serve, you will find replenishment in that. It's not the same kind of drain as you going and working your stupid job from 9 to 5. It's a different thing. It really is. But it's a little bit. It's a step of faith. You got to step out. You're gonna have to overcome, like Brent says, that inner conversation that you're having with yourself. Of oh my gosh, what am I doing? But it's worth it.
Well, I think also that we talked a little bit about inflation and everybody's affected by that. Mm-hmm. It's okay for everyone to be stressed financially during this time, and you have to lean into that, and you have to own that. What can I give financially wise? But that doesn't affect your ability to give your time. And quite honestly, those nonprofits, your churches, they're already paying higher for goods. If they can get volunteer times and help and more help that way, it takes one less burden off of that. And Salvation Army is a great example. We put those every year. We do bell ringing, and those kettles sit outside at Walmart and Kroger. And if they just sit out there unattended, I forget what the percentage. It raises 75% less than if there's somebody out there ringing a bell that is out there in front of that bell, drawing attention to that bell. So just that's a great example of just people, just putting a person in there and having a volunteer at those bells, ringing those bells. Yeah, and we're seeing that. I mean, again, speaking for church world here, for the longest time when it came to a church's annual general budget, on the HR
usually on the HR, like as far as you paying for employees at a church, the big like bellwether marker was like you don't ever want to go over 60% of your general budget. That number is getting I know I'm over that right now, more and more so. Again, on the volunteer side, because you're having to staff more things now, and that is it's an absolute challenge. And so for those people that are struggling in that area, I would just say like this feels like the pendulum is shifting hard one way. My hope is that people can re-engage and that they can find things that they're passionate about.
So the other comment we had was Charlie Lord says his company did a community day Thursday with projects that range from renovating Hope on Haven Hill that provides assistance to women and children in transition. Another project was the Children's Museum in Dover, New Hampshire. And he was directly involved in helping the Science Center in Stratham when they gave over 400 man hours in one day with that. And that was just over $15,000, including materials to give back to their community. So that was really cool to see too.
And for organizations that are doing that, you put that kind of man hours, you don't have to you get a lot done in a short amount of time when you can orchestrate those kind of things. And we're fortunate here in this community. We've got a lot of businesses that do give that kind of time, and it's really amazing just to see what can be what can happen, what those efforts can do.
Well, and a lot of times I would even challenge our listeners, like even if your employer is not doing that, what about your department? Is there something that you guys could adopt a family this year far as for Christmas, or sometime go ring bells for Salvation Army, things that you could do on a smaller scale, even if your employer is not involved with that. But I will say Elkhart County is amazing at the employer level of supporting employees to do that. But also I would just say if your employer is not in that category, you can have a direct impact just in your department by organizing something. Maybe it's only one person this year. Maybe it's only two people, but maybe that gains traction and it triples next year. Yeah. And again, that's a great example of ripple effects. Like
absolutely,
just starting something.
People are going to see that your department got energized and did something, and then they're going to want to do something too. So
doing good things is good for you, people. Like it's good. You will enjoy it. And I remember like I started off when I was high school baseball, bell ringing. That was, if you were on this team, that was a required thing. And it was, it's like, well, it kind of caught on, it becomes the norm, becomes the expectation, to start that sort of thing. So there's, the times are uncertain, folks, but we can at least control between our time, our talent, and our treasure. We always have, there are things that can be given. We have things that we can give. And so I just, it's a good challenge for me, something I'm thinking about. We can get strategic about it, be intentional, involve our families. It doesn't have to just be a solo sport. We can get everybody on board.
So often we sit down and review our budget, and we do this. Sit down as a family, and yes, even if it's you and a spouse, just think about, what are we doing given our time right now? What are we doing on a dollar amount contribution? Are we there? Is that high? Is that low? Where do we want to get at? It's important it doesn't just happen. You have to be very intentional about that. And I would also say one of the other things that we need to do on the financial side is make sure that our affairs are in order. We constantly in this business see a lot of situations where people haven't thought about that. And mom and dad or your loved one was extremely charitable, but then all of a sudden kids are left with an estate that they're like, I don't know what mom and dad wanted to do and how they wanted to support this and that. And so in those situations, a lot of times your wishes aren't carried on because you didn't specify what you wanted to have happen. So from a financial planning standpoint, again, just starting where you're at right now and going down the road and saying, what if, and spelling that out. It's so important. To have that there, not only for your plan, but also for your loved ones too. So just a little plug in there for estate planning for everybody, regardless of whether or not you have significant resources or not, is very imperative. And we should spend at least some time reviewing that for a calendar year.
Andy, I want to go on record right now that should Jackie and I be involved in some sort of terrible calamity, we bequeath all of our assets to the Lehman Corporation. So I don't
Mark it.
No, nothing. I mean, nothing is signed and probably won't be, but just in this day and record,
It's on the podcast.
It's on the podcast. It's probably official. So.
Well, Brent, we do thank you for coming out and talking. Any final last things that you want to say before we get into the pop quiz?
No, I appreciate it. And again, I hope that this puts a little spark into people to think a little bit about what they're going to do. We're getting ready to go into the holiday time where it is easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of everything and planning. This stuff happens through kind of taking time and thinking about that and just stepping back and saying yes when everything is telling you, I don't have time for this. I don't want to give to this, etc. Lean in, try it, and I'm convinced that you will be rewarded tenfold.
And come and say hi to Brent and I when we're ringing the bell outside of Kroger.
Exactly.
Just say hello. Yeah. At least acknowledge that we're trying to follow through.
Great. Well, it has come to that time in our show.
Now it's time for the Dudes and Dads Pop Quiz.
Well, and so those of you who never joined us before, a lot of times what we do is we pepper our guests with questions that they can't expect, and we just random things to get to know them better. However, Brent says, "Hey, since I'm already a guest here, I've been a guest, I'm a friend of the show. We're gonna do this for you." So he's gonna flip the switch. He's gonna ask us questions.
I'm flipping the switch. And I'm asking you the questions.
All right,
today. I know you boys a little bit.
Here
better.
we go.
All right,
here we go. Here we go.
We ready?
I guess so.
All right. So we talked a little bit about mentoring today.
Mm-hmm.
Besides your immediate family members, who was the biggest mentor in your life? And maybe give a little background story on that.
Oh man.
Oh, Andy, do you want to go first, or should I go first?
I'm trying to think.
Okay.
You threw me off because you said besides my immediate family members. So
Yes.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say. One of the biggest mentors to me, and I'm thinking back to my high school years. I would have been a high school student. Joe Hopkins. Joe and his wife regularly invited a bunch of ragtag high school kids into their home from all these different schools between Elkhart and St. Joe County. It was part of this youth organization they were part of. Welcomed us in, fed us tacos, and had us talk about our life and share together in a really safe place. And that act alone, I think, largely shaped the direction of my life. What I decided to do, and all they were doing is just showing up. That just showed up for us, and where I could kind of just talk about all the stupid stuff that I was doing in my life. And Joe would sit there and he would not judge me, but patiently guide me along the way in that season. So I'm grateful, Joe. If you're listening, great, and if you're not, start. Okay, this one's for you.
All right. So for me, I'd say my youth minister. I had a couple different youth ministers over my time, but the one that was there the longest, Keith Wilkins, I would say was probably my biggest person who had like a shape on my life. He was. Similar things, he would pick us up from school, we'd go do something, he'd let us hang out, we just got to really know him, and kind of, he just was teaching us, and for me, just being there for us and supporting us. So kind of goes along the Big Brothers thing, we're just there for somebody.
Yep.
We're just there.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Guiltiest pleasure of snacks. That anything can be somewhat. I mean, you could say it's bad for you.
All right, I got it. I gotta go first.
Okay.
All right. So I'm really glad that this place exists here, but not like in Goshen.
Okay.
Crumble cookie. Okay. So if you've never had
oh my gosh,
biggest cookies ever, like most expensive cookies ever too, but like we'll have a box sitting there, and like I'll wake up the next day and I'll be like, it's kind of like a donut, right? And I'll eat this cookie.
Yeah.
So like, that's my guiltiest snack.
You're the second person that has said that in the last 4 days. So
Yeah, man.
They
I'm gonna have to check this
their
out.
Game
It's
is
good.
strong. They do a blueberry crumble, like oh my, it's like a.
And some of them are like kind of like donut flavors.
They're kind
but
of like it. That's
it's
true.
Good. They're good.
It's solid. Guiltiest pleasure for me. I've not had this in a little while, but I will eat the whole freaking thing. Some people call them Muddy Buddies. Some people call it Puppy Chow. That's like the Chex Mix with like chocolate
And
powdered
powdered sugar.
whatever that is. Oh my gosh! Now that I've said it, I just
You're gonna go get a bag.
I want to go get some. Yeah.
I got two more.
Okay.
So movie that may not be your favorite movie, but the movie you've seen the most in your lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at me.
Yeah. Do you know what yours is? I know what mine is. Some people are going to judge me really harshly when I say what it is.
Probably mine would be Princess Bride. The Princess Bride. That's a good one. It's quotable. I've seen it so many times. That's
what I love about Princess Bride is that amongst I don't know what it is amongst both our generation and just our larger circle of people. All I have to do is when I'm saying goodbye to someone, when I say "Good luck storming the castle," and everyone knows.
And my kids have really gotten into it too. So they've seen it several times. It's like I saw it on the VHS tape,
100%.
And they're seeing it on DVD. But it's so good.
So this is the movie that people are going to judge me for. The one I've seen the most times, it was a heavy rotation in college. Particular is The Big Lebowski. Jeff Bridges is my spirit animal.
I'm the dude.
Thank you.
So that's what you call me.
That's exactly right. That's where we get that sound clip from. Exactly right. Yeah. So, The Big Lebowski is not appropriate for children. It is kind of a guilty pleasure because Coen Brothers. It's the whole mood of the whole thing. And Steve Buscemi's in it, and
you can't go wrong with Steve Buscemi.
Who doesn't love Steve Buscemi? So anyway.
Last one. So we talked about charitable giving tonight. Mm-hmm. What is a thought that you've been running through your head? What we've been talking about, or something that you kind of feel like is front and center for you?
Okay, in all of this,
yeah. Whether it's time, resources, whatever that is. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
So. Oh gosh, I'm going to say this out loud, and I haven't told Jackie this. And
she's watching.
Yeah.
I don't know. Being at the gala with Big Brothers Big Sisters, like I've thought very seriously. I thought very, very seriously about that. Mm-hmm. I think again. I mean, number one, it's like I was like youth pastor for I was in youth. I was for like 17 years. Like I know some things about that. I could do something like that. It's approachable and doable, but it's just that whole that initial thought, like, how am I going to make this? How am I going to make this work? And again, I'm saying this out loud, and it's on recording now, and Jackie's listening, and so I think that's what's rolling around my head right now.
I will say, just to give a little plug for Big Brother Sisters with that, is I've been a big myself, and it actually is. You kind of psych yourself out that it's going to be way all kinds of time consuming. It's really not. I mean, again, it's that 1 degree.
Yep.
It's just carving off some extra time towards a particular individual. And they also have baby steps that you can go in. So maybe it's not a full one-on-one match, but they have ways that you can go out. We have one-on-one base, but then there's also community base where you can go in, read to a student, a particular student that is asked to be matched up with an adult. So just give you a little.
Thank you, Brent.
Get a little plug there that you can walk into the shallow end there.
Gosh. Okay.
I would say for me, I think just the volunteering. I do a decent amount of things volunteering wise. Not all of them necessarily have a ripple effect, and I think that's probably for me the thing that's been rolling around is a ripple effect. I work with the Scouts, the Boy Scouts. And the reason I did that because before that I had been doing youth stuff, and I felt that was a better, I don't want to say better use of my time, but that I could have more of a ripple effect there. And so that's why I did switch to that. And so I think for me, it's just continuing to remember what I'm doing can have a ripple effect, and making sure that I'm doing the things that can have ripple effects.
Josiah, my number 2 son, is in Scouts, and it was a special moment a few weeks ago. Josiah had gotten a bunch of merit badges and some recognitions things, and Andy got to be up front there and hand those things out to him, and I'm like, I just love everything about this. So
that's awesome.
It's really cool. Yep.
So
yeah.
Well, thanks, Brent. We appreciate you being on the show tonight, and we encourage you guys to go out and be charitable with your giving.
Give some stuff, people. Your time, your talent, your treasure. It's important. Hey, as always, if you've got some ideas for us, you can shoot us an email, dudesanddadspodcast@gmail.com.
Or you can send us a voicemail at 574-213-8702, and we would love to hear your feedback.
We would. And, as always, dudesanddadspodcast.com for all the show notes, episodes. Catch up on those things that you need to catch up on the show.
Right.
Head over there.
Watch us live when we do this.
Watch us live.
Right. So we
all
do
the
this.
technology.
Yeah.
All the technology. Brent, from the deepest part of my heart, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
So
guys.
it's
Great being back.
Yeah. Alumni.
He nailed alumni, and he's going to get to sign the cup now.
Yeah.
The cup. Hey, guys, have a good time. Until next time, grace and peace.